You've tuned in to Sliver and Bite TV. And today we're making smoked chicken in Filo baskets with orange mayonnaise. For a more condensed version of this recipe, click the banner above. Intended to be served as a starter or hors d'oeuvre, however, you can increase the basket size and serve as the main event. This is such a tasty hors d'oeuvre. Your family and friends will be chasing down the server for the next one. Let's have a look at how to make your very own homemade mayonnaise. If you'd like the full tutorial, click the banner above. In a food processor, put in your egg yolks, red wine vinegar, salt, lemon juice, and mustard, and give a quick whiz. Once this is combined, you can add in 1 to 2 tablespoons of oil. This allows the egg mixture to get used to the temperature and the added oil. Once you've been mixing this for 2 minutes, you can now start adding a constant, steady stream of the remaining oil. You'll notice that the oil I'm using is quite dark. I'm using an avocado oil. Traditionally, canola or vegetable oil is used. However, if you prefer avocado oil, make sure you get a very bland tasting avocado oil, and just note that you may have a slight tinge of yellow to your mayonnaise. Before you place in, say, the last half a cup of your oil, make sure you wipe down the insides just to make sure all your ingredients are incorporated. Then it's back on a high speed, and now we can add the remaining oil. Once you've included all of your oil, you can start slowly adding in your orange juice. Ordinarily, I would use blood orange. However, here in Australia, it isn't the season, so I've just gone for the navel orange. You'll notice that the mayonnaise is quite thick, and this is exactly what you want. You do need to make sure that your temperature in the room is quite low, because in a heartbeat, you can see that it goes quite loose. However, not all is lost. Once you put it in the fridge, it will firm up again. Now it's time for a taste test. You may need to add in some additional orange juice. And as you can see, I want a little bit more of a sharp taste, so I'm putting in some orange rind. Back on with the lid, and one last whiz, and then that can be decanted into a ramekin, covered and placed into the refrigerator, ready to use later. Now it's time to get started on the smoked chicken. And I'm cheating just a little bit by using smoked paprika. However, if you have a smoking method you would prefer to use, you can insert that step here. Place some oil in a fry pan, an oil of your choice, and then on a chopping board, lay out your chicken. Your oil should be on approximately a medium to high heat, ready to receive the chicken. And I'm putting just a little bit of oil in my hands to rub over the chicken. This will allow the smoked paprika to stick to the chicken. I'm going to swirl the oil around in the pan one last time, just so it's coating the pan evenly. And with a sieve, I'm going to evenly distribute the smoked paprika over the chicken breast. If you simply pour it on from a ramekin, you'll notice that you'll just get large clumps. And paprika side down, you can put that into the fry pan. And depending on the thickness of your chicken, you may want to reduce the heat now so that you don't burn before you need to turn it over. As you can see, the smoked paprika dust makes quite a bit of a mess, so I'm just cleaning up the workstation and now reducing the heat. You'll notice that I haven't butterflied my chicken. Keeping it whole like this, in theory, will give you a much juicier chicken experience. Now I'm just dusting the other side of the chicken with the smoked paprika. And at this stage, adding a little bit of orange juice just to start infusing a little bit more of that orange taste. The chicken has been on the pan now for approximately 15 minutes, so I'm ready to turn, just making sure that there is a little bit of oil underneath it, just so that the smoked paprika doesn't stick directly to the pan. Now I'm going to get started on the garnish and just finely grate some of the orange rind. Adding another half orange worth of juice and then covering with a saucepan lid. I do this to keep the chicken juicy now that the chicken is approximately 60% of the way done. As you can see, I am using a probe to check the internal temperature because you want it to at least be 75 degrees Celsius to ensure that it is fully cooked. And then back on with the lid until you are happy with the internal temperature. As you can see, it's starting to burn. Now that is the smoked paprika. You can add in additional orange juice or even a little bit of water so that it doesn't burn and affect the smell and taste of the chicken. Now that the chicken is done, it can set off to the side to cool. Now it's time to get started on the Filo baskets. I'm melting down some butter, ready to baste onto the Filo sheets. Make sure you have your butter cut into little squares because even on a reheat to melt your butter, if you don't, it may explode. And you don't want to make a mess inside your microwave. As you can see, I have some store-bought Filo sheets. I haven't even looked into how to make Filo sheets from scratch. I imagine something that thin, you would need a machine. So you want to gradually bring your Filo sheets to room temperature. As you can see, the two top layers have cracked. So I'm just peeling them away and putting them in the bin. And there are a few different ways that you can prepare the Filo baskets. First off, I'm just grabbing one sheet, setting that off to the side and making sure that I keep the remaining Filo sheets moist. And you do this by using a brand new Chuck's cloth, slightly dampening it and putting it inside the filo. If it's too wet, you'll just turn the filo into mush. So make sure it's only slightly damp. Now grab that single sheet of filo pastry, and based on the melted butter, I'm only doing half of the sheet because I will then fold it in half, make sure all of the air bubbles are out of it, ready to cut out the circles for the filo baskets. I'm brushing on just a little bit of butter on the outside of the filo pastry. This will assist in the filo pastry not sticking to the cupcake tin. I'm using a mini cupcake tin, so make sure the cookie cutter that you use matches the cupcake tin that you're going to be using to make your baskets. You do want a little bit of overhang so that the chicken, once added to the basket, doesn't fall out. This is a little trial and error, so it may take a few times to get the correct size. Once you have cut out a few of the discs, you can grab your cupcake tin and mold the discs into the tin, making sure that you're pressing them into the corners. You'll find the best way to do it that suits you, and then cut and repeat. And you'll notice after a few times doing it, they just simply slide in. I'm using 3 fingers and then pushing it in, and it's almost perfect. If you are making quite a few of the baskets, you'll notice that this time round I'm grabbing 2 sheets and then basting a full sheet before placing the other sheet on top, then removing all of the air bubbles. This way, you don't need to continuously grab one sheet and then fold in half. And now that I have done a few sheets, there is a little bit of butter on the workspace, so I no longer need to put a little bit of butter on the outside. I found that the more that I worked with the filo pastry, I understood just how it worked. And in the beginning, I was being really delicate with it, thinking it was going to tear. But once you've added the butter to it and the moisture, it's very unlikely that it will tear. So what you'll notice is that I basically pick it up and almost scrunch it up into a ball, then take out the discs. So you'll notice that you become a little rough with it. I also do quite a few goes in the oven with the Filo baskets, so I won't fill a complete cupcake tray. I just keep on rotating them as I cut them, just to avoid the raw pastry from drying out. And I hadn't mentioned, they're going into the oven at 200 degrees and they're only in for 4 to 5 minutes. So you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on it, because they will go from raw to golden brown to burnt very, very quickly. We also don't want to be wasteful, so I place the remaining Filo pastry just on a area that isn't occupied by the baskets. Cook it up, because then that is great to do a little taste test if you don't want to use up some of your Filo baskets. And they're into the oven for 4 to 5 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. And as you can see, a beautiful golden brown. You don't need to wait for it to cool down. You can put them straight into a container to keep them airtight until you need to use them. Some of them will develop a little bubble inside, so you just need to double check. These are turning out to be quite perfect, which is awesome. I think this last one, you'll see that there's a little bit of a bubble in the middle of it, which will prevent you from putting as much of the chicken filling in. Speaking of chicken, it's time to dice it up. The chicken is room temperature at this stage, so now just cutting into thin strips. Before turning it around and then into smaller cubes. Some of the middle parts of the chicken breast you will have to cut once or twice down the center, just to make sure that the cubes aren't too large, because the Filo, depending on how large you made your baskets, need to have at least 6 pieces in to really get the full effect of the taste. At this stage, I'm only going to fill 10 of the Filo baskets, so I'm just putting in maybe 1 cup of the diced chicken and then adding in some of the mayonnaise. You only want to lightly coat your chicken with the mayonnaise. You'll notice that I put in a little too much mayonnaise, so I've had to add in a little more chicken so that the mayonnaise isn't overpowering. Perfect. Now grab a serving platter and place out your chosen Filo baskets. You'll notice that I'm digging around for the deepest ones so that I can put as much chicken as I can in the basket. I'm using 2 teaspoons. However, you could glove up to put the chicken into the Filo baskets. You need to be extremely careful at this stage. The Filo baskets are very delicate, so any pressure will crack it, and then you're going to have to discard it. So you need to be really ginger at this point. If you're making these to be hors d'oeuvres, you just want enough in there to put the whole pastry basket and the chicken into your mouth, because this is not intended to be bitten into. By all means, give it a go, but you will end up having crumbs of Filo pastry and chicken all down your front. Now it's time to add the garnish. I'm putting some orange marmalade on the top, and this sweetness really complements the savoury taste of the chicken, the smoked paprika, and the mayonnaise. It's absolutely divine. In actual fact, it's mouth-watering. Now using some kitchen tweezers, just so that it's a little more precise, putting on some of that orange rind. Again, beautiful accompaniment with the sweet and savoury. And lastly, a little bit of very finely chopped parsley. And there you have it. Smoked chicken in Filo baskets with orange mayonnaise. Trust me when I say these are so Moorish. In actual fact, making 10 of them simply wasn't enough. If you enjoyed this real-time cooking experience, make sure you check out the rest of what Sliver and Bite has to offer right here on YouTube. See you soon.